let's go back now to the top. It's too expensive. What's the first thing we always do? Agree. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time teaching you people how to agree. Like I said, varying degrees. Shake your head up and down or get elaborate. I don't care, but agree with it. It's too expensive. I can understand when you say that, Mr. and Mrs. Jones. I mean, it certainly isn't cheap. Good enough, right? But isn't it a fact in our society today, you get what you pay for? Usually the good stuff isn't very cheap, and the cheap stuff isn't very good. Now, I know you've all heard that before, but people, is that or is it not a classic example of what? Isn't it? And the customer says, remember now, they want them, they like them, right? And you tell them, yeah, it's expensive, but you get what you pay for. And a lot of times, that's all they needed to hear to strike that number. They just needed to have the rationalization why it's okay to spend their money. And they say, you know, she's got a point there. I mean, it's expensive, but it's real good. It'll last me a long time. That's what's going through their head. Okay, I'll take it. You don't even need the book. Now, am I sitting here telling you that that's all you got to say and you'll get every single sale and they say it's too expensive? No, I'm not. But it's one more click back here toward reaching that number that allows them to buy it because they want it anyway. They say, well, yeah, you know, you got a point there, Ken. I understand that. I mean, you know, I understand buying quality and all. You're right. But, see, they use that on us too, right? But that's still an awful lot of money for knives. Well, yeah, it is. But this is an awful lot for your money too, you know? Is it that it's too many knives? I mean, are the knives too expensive, or do you think they're not worth the money? Oh, they're worth the money. That's the best I ever saw. Well, then is there too many knives? Well, yeah, and now they're looking for a way out, right? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I don't know if I need all that, right, Aunt Agatha? Right? What? That wasn't, I'll take it, was it? I can understand where you say you don't need all them. I mean, after all, there's 10 or 12 of them there. But this set right here was designed by some of the leading home economists to be the most efficient service to get the modern housewife in and out of the kitchen as quickly as possible. Customer says, oh, it's going to save you time in the kitchen. And maybe that's all you needed. Or they might say, well, yeah, but I mean, you know, I wouldn't need all these. But I can understand, you know, but tell me, Mrs. Jones, which one, not how many, which one wouldn't you use here on this picture? Well, I wouldn't use that one. I can understand where you wouldn't use that one. But then tell me, Mrs. Jones, what would you use for, like, mincing and chopping, dicing up onions, vegetables, nut meats, and things like that? Which knife is that? Yeah. And she says, well, maybe I'd use that one, but I wouldn't use that one. Well, I can understand where you wouldn't use that one. What would you use for all the heavy-duty jobs you do in the kitchen? Like disjointing chickens, cutting watermelon and pumpkin and squash and all that. And she says, he's got a point there. And pretty soon, she talks herself into the whole set. Why? Because you studied and learned the names and the uses for each knife. Make sense? And all that time, what we do? Told the truth. And each time, a little click went off. Now, there are several other ways to handle it's too expensive. I can understand when you say that, Mrs. Jones. I mean, it's certainly not cheap. But, oh, I'm sorry. I certainly didn't mean to indicate to you that you have to pay the whole $611 right now. We can slap it on your MasterCard and Visa and spread it out for the next 10, 12 months. Or I can bust it up into 3 convenient payments. Now, does that always work? No. But that might be all they need. Oh, I don't have to pay for it all right now. Bingo, here come the plastic. You know, I think we got 38 MasterCards. I think we got 3 of them in the desk we haven't used yet. You see what I mean? And then there's the chicken way out. It gets sales. Not my favorite, but it works. Too expensive. I can understand when you say that. I mean, certainly it's not cheap, blah, blah, blah. But how about letting me show you a set that would fit your budget a little better? In other words, if this set's too expensive, how about this one? Drop down. But let me tell you something, people. If you drop down instantly, from here, 611 to 435, you're not going to even sell any of these. But you hang in there for a while up here, playing the yes but game, and the split second you drop, they will jump on it with both feet like this. Mark my words, okay? All right, so you get the idea on it's too expensive. I can't afford it. I can understand where you'd say that, Mr. Jones. I mean, after all, times are tough. Right? Sufficient agree. I remember exactly to this day what I used to say over and over and over when I was in college. I had fun with this, and if you're not having fun with it, you're doing something wrong. People say, I can't afford it. I say, I can understand why you say that, Mr. and Mrs. Schwartz. I mean, after all, times are tough. I mean, what do you think I'm out here trying to sell knives for? And they would laugh, just like you laugh. See? You get right down there with them, and let them know that you understand. Times are tough, you know? But, right? Then we tell them the truth. Help me, somebody. I can't afford it. I can understand it, Mr. Jones. Times are tough, but volunteer. Truth.
Last knives you'll buy.
But it's the last knives you'll ever buy. I used to like this one. This might be a little heavy duty. But they used to say they can't afford it, and I used to say, Miss Jones, I can understand when you say that, and I was real careful when I said it. You know, I smiled, great big ear to ear, you know. But Miss Jones, and you probably don't want to hear this, but really and truly, can you afford not to? I mean, if money's a problem, then you don't want to continue to buy knives over and over and over again, and really spend a lot more than if you bought some good ones to begin with. And what is that, people? That is the truth, isn't it? And one more little number reels off back here. And then, same thing, you know, if they can't afford this one, maybe they can afford this one. Drop down. Or if they can't afford it, you can say, well, you know, I didn't mean to tell you to pay for all of it. We can bust it up for you, stuff like that, okay? And finally, I don't want to spend too much time. Finally, the not now, just a couple of quick things. Bear in mind that if you're in competition for the person's money, in other words, a lot of times you hear this priority, now other priorities. I got so sick to death of the word priorities, you know, I could throw up when I hear the word priority today. But if, you know, if they tell you what you was, you know, I'd really like to get it, Angela, but I promise you, old lady, I'll buy a washer and dryer. First, what does that mean? Not now, right? One thing you got to remember, if you're in competition for their money with something else, be it a trip to Hawaii, a washer, dryer, mink coat, or whatever, paying the rent, whatever, don't ever try to talk them out of what you're in competition with and into Cutco. It doesn't work. You have to show them how they can do both. And some of you gals that have walked through the mall and saw that blouse hanging on the rack and walked out with the blouse as opposed to not with the blouse, you ought to be able to help people rationalize spending the money and getting both. Because you bought the blouse, you still paid your rent somehow, right? Okay? Quick example, how many heard the one we're saving for a vacation? That's fairly popular, right? Okay? Role play with me for just a moment, okay? Tell me you're saving for a vacation, okay? Are you really? Fantastic. Where are you going? Hawaii. What do you do first?
Agree.
Great. Great. Have you ever been there? Yeah. Hey, I've been to Hawaii twice. I think everybody should go at least 1 week out of every month. That'd be perfect. Let me ask you this. When you go, are you going for a month?
Yes.
You know any people that take a vacation, go for a month to Hawaii? Not very many, correct? So let's try that again. When you go, are you going for a month? How long are you going? Okay. People, I know he's not going for a month. That's why I said it. Generally the way it goes, are you going for a month? They say, no, just a week. Just a week. And they said it, I didn't. They said, just a week. Now suppose I said, are you going for a week? And they say, no, we're going for 2 whole weeks. What's bigger? We want to play it down. Are you going for a month? Oh no, we're just going for a week. Oh really? That's terrific. You'll have a great time. Been saving for quite a while? I'll tell you what, yeah, good idea. Yes it is. And I'll tell you what, I can tell you really want to go real bad. Yeah, been saving for a long time? I bet you the trip would have cost you $400 or $500. You'd have figured out a way to get there somehow, wouldn't you? Trap door just slammed shut, didn't it? If it cost you $400 or $500 more, you'd have figured out a way to get there, right? You can't stop it. Well, this set of Cutco right here is just $435. And I'll tell you something, Mrs. Jones. This might sound funny coming from a sales rep, but I'll tell you it sincerely. If I thought that selling you this set of Cutco would stop you from going to Hawaii, I wouldn't sell it to you. I'd be on your doorstep the day you got home, okay? But I wouldn't sell it to you because I'd like to see you go. But I don't think it would. And you got to remember, you're going for 2 weeks. You're going to cook and make meals 2, maybe 3 times a day for the next 30 or 40 years. You think it'd mess up the trip that bad if you took a little bit of that money and got started on something you'd use the rest of your life? Now, I might not get the sale, but I'm telling that woman the truth, right? And them little numbers back here are steady reeling off. And sooner or later, the bell goes off. Agree and tell the truth. And you handle all of them that way. Some of them are technical. You know, you get in there and you say, yes, Mrs. In fact, I love it. Young people always, they can do it better. You know, we're so proud of the job that Vance is doing in Biloxi as a brand new brass manager. All right? And we're very proud of what he's doing. And of course, he learned all that from Mitch. But now, can Vance do it better than Mitch? Damn right he can. Just ask him. He'll tell you. You young people can always do things better. Sometimes I have to yuck at that because I get up in front of young people and I teach them, you know, to agree with the customer. And they can always do it one step better. And the customer says, you know, something like, you know, I'm saying for a trip to Hawaii or whatever. And immediately they do it one step better. They go, yes! Mrs. Joe, I certainly understand that. You know? And then they come back with this. But only the brain doesn't engage and give you the common sense answer. So you go, but, and you miss the sale because you didn't know the answer to the objection. Which leads me into my thoughts on stupidity in a brand new sales rep. Stupidity in a new sales rep is not, hear me, is not when you miss a sale because you didn't know the answer to the objection. You're not supposed to know them all, you're brand new. Now Mitch has got a copy of the book. But stupidity is walking out of that sales call that you missed because they gave you an objection, you agreed, but you didn't know the truthful answer to it. So you missed it. And walking right into the next one. What if you got the same one? You miss it again. And that's stupid. On the other hand, you walk out of one, you call Mitch, or Sarah, or Vance, or Mike, or David, or Sherry, any of these people, and they just slide out the copy of the book. And they tell you the answer. And then the next time you encounter that objection, you're going to be sitting there like a vulture, just waiting to pounce all over, because they all want it. Remember that. Your job is only to help them rationalize spending their hard-earned money. I want to share quickly, because it is getting on time. I want to tell you why you use the yes, but. Now you know the mechanics. You know how to do it. I want to tell you why you're doing it. Because if you understand why you're doing it, I think you'll do it better. Make sense? The reason you have to agree first is because when that consumer winds up and fires that objection at you, at that moment is when their sales resistance, you've all heard that term, right? Sales resistance is at its strongest, its thickest. And I like to think of sales resistance as like a bulletproof shield, like a plexiglass shield between you and the customer. Now, some people have more sales resistance than others. Some have a real thick shield, others have a real thin one. And you know something? Every consumer out there, including you and me, and our grandmas, and our parents, we all know how thick our shield is, don't we? I don't have any sales resistance. Mine's like saran wrap. Okay? And I know that. Now, people, that does not make me a bad person. I just don't have any sales resistance. My wife has to be very careful who I sit down with, because whatever they got, I'm probably going to own it. But other people have lots of sales resistance, correct? Now, the reason you have to agree first is because when they fire that objection at you, that's when their sales resistance is the strongest. And if you came right back instantly with the perfect answer, which you memorized out of the book, wouldn't do you any good, because all it would do is ricochet off of that shield. You still wouldn't sell them. But by agreeing first, the customer says, well, the salesperson agrees with me, I must be right, I don't need this shield anymore. Boom, down goes the shield. And they become vulnerable to the truth. Make sense? Now, I told you I'd try to prove everything I told you. We talked earlier about new people being afraid to deal with objections. I hope you're not afraid anymore, because if those people will take the time to broadcast to you that they are indeed interested by objecting, then at least it's up to us to help them get what they want anyway. Make sense? And if you think for a minute it's high pressure, let me tell you where that one's at. How many of you have heard the expression, you can live with the truth? I would suspect most all of you somewhere in your life have heard that, correct? You can live with the truth? If you stick to the truth, by definition, you can't possibly be high pressuring. Impossible if you stick to the truth. So as long as you're telling customers, agreeing and telling the truth, you are not high pressuring. Now, as soon as you step off the beaten path a little bit and start winging it, yes, you could very well be high pressured. People say to me sometimes, well, Ken, how many times do you yes but them before you give up? And I look them right square in the eye and I say, you probably don't want to know the answer to that. And of course they all say, oh yes, tell me. I tell them as many times as it takes for them to say, I'll take it. And as long as you stick to the truth, you are not high pressured. You don't believe me? Try it. Try it sometime. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you you could take some of this with you and use it for the rest of your life. This yes but theory. Imagine teachers. Well, now I can understand that, Professor George. But, I mean, you're right. I should flunk the course. I see. I mean, I know what you say. Or parents. First of all, the mere fact that you agreed with your parents once, they probably failed. Once in your life, you catch them so off guard that you agreed with them, you probably get your way anyway. Now, I submit to all of you, kind of a closing remark here. Some of you think that the day you got out of your vector schooling, that somebody, Mitch, Raphael, one of these people, flicked a switch, and you instantly turned from consumer to salesperson. And you're wrong. I really believe that each and every person in this room, all of you have been salespeople all of your life. Only difference is now you have the opportunity to get paid for it. And if you don't believe that, I'll leave you with this thought. When you were a little bitty baby, about this long from one end to the other, and you mussed your diaper, you know, the oozy kind, right? You did not just lay there in it. You put on a sales pitch, didn't you? Wah, right? Now, if somebody didn't come around quick enough to your liking to take care of that mess, you didn't pack up your samples and go home. You closed one more time by screaming a little louder, didn't you? Didn't you? And lo and behold, by closing one more time, somebody come around and took care of the problem. I know that's a fact, or some of you would smell a little funky right now. So now you got a little bit older, people. Now you're this big right here. And you wander into the kitchen right around dinner time, and you say, "Mom, I need a cookie." And she says, "No, it's too close to dinner, spoil your appetite." How many times did we hear that when we were growing up, right? Now, don't tell me that you turned around and walked out of the kitchen. You came up with the greatest sales pitch in the history of mankind. "But Mom, if I don't get a cookie right now, I am going to starve to death. And it will be your fault." You talk about high pressure. And, Mom, and. One more quote. "If you give me a cookie, I'll eat 2 spoonfuls of carrots tonight at dinner instead of 1. And she says, "Oh, get your cookie and get on out of here." Right? And out the door you go. You got what you wanted. Because you closed one more time. You got the order, didn't you? You've been salespeople all of your life. The only difference being now you have the opportunity to get paid for it. And ladies and gentlemen, if we can agree that everybody likes it, everybody'd like to have it, and all we have to do is help them rationalize them spending their hard-earned money, and what's wrong with that? If you look at it that way, this job becomes a whole lot easier. Especially when those same people will be using that product 20, 30, and 40 years later. They come out much better than you do. You know, that $50, $60, $80 commission you make, that's gone about 12 seconds after it hits the mailbox in the mall. But they'll have it for the next 20, 30 years. Ladies and gentlemen, you are very privileged people to be in the top group in the southern region. And people like Sarah here and Raphael at the helm of the whole division, and guys like Mitch and his assistants and Vance, you're very privileged to have those people. Use them. They know what they're doing. If you're struggling, if you're having trouble, we can teach you whatever it is if you just let us know what's bugging you. We'll find out the reason if you're willing to do the work. And the only other thing that I'll mention to you is most of you raised your hands. You've been to SSSC1. Let me tell you, peanuts compared to Super Summer Sales Conference 2 at Hilton Head at the end of summer and end of August. Those of you who didn't raise your hand, I highly recommend, don't take my word for it, ask one of those people that raised their hand what it's like to go to a Vector conference. And don't miss it. It's a pleasure to be here with the champions in the Southern region. Thank you.